Hello and welcome to the Kayden Gordon Show, today's best country mix. And joining me is a very special guest. John Krondes is joining us. John, how are you?
Hi, Kayden. How are you? Thanks very much for having me on your show. And ladies and gentlemen, Kayden is a very special person, too. A great show. A great show. I've checked it out. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. And I appreciate you for being here with us today.
Likewise, and thanks so much for having me on your show. It's a blessing for all of us, and you're a pioneer, and we thank you for helping me, the songs, the music. Joe Esposito, who spent his final days promoting and building this project and some of these many, many songs with Elvis Presley's musicians. And, you're a leader in the pack, and everybody thanks you for spreading the word and getting this out to all the fans around the world. God bless you.
Oh, thank you so much. God bless you, too. So why don't you start by telling everyone a little bit about you and how you kind of jumped right into doing all this Elvis hit-making team stuff and making it go viral.
Absolutely. Well, I'll quote my mother, as my mother said all my life, that I was born in the studio when I came out of the womb. And my father, Jimmy Krondes, was a pretty famous songwriter and won several awards. The song that we're talking about, that CDX Nashville, Sony, and the Orchard just started in their campaign to start this campaign and promote my music. They started with my very first recording, which radio stations are getting now and starting to air, which Kayden first got, which is called The End, a.k.a., quote, at the end of a rainbow. And my father, Jimmy Krondes, along with a beautiful lyricist, Sid Jacobson, wrote that song back in 1958. And Earl Grant was the original artist who sang that song. Kind of sounded like Nat Cole, some people said, but that skyrocketed him to fame. That song instantaneously, I wasn't alive then, I'm just going by accounts of others, and my mother, Joe Esposito. The End just became a worldwide hit. It just took off. And it's been recorded many times over before my time and during my time. And as a little kid, the Bee Gees recorded that song. Jim Nabors, if you remember him. Nancy Sinatra recorded that song. It's been in several movies, TV shows, and commercials. Chobani Greek Yogurt used that song in their commercial about 5-6 years ago when Joe Esposito was alive. And actually, Elvis Presley was going to record The End, and chose that song to serenade Priscilla Bayou, which became Priscilla Presley, his future wife, on the very night they met in Germany. And it's funny, my father never told me any of this stuff. I found out years later, when Joe Esposito had found me and started managing my project, he met my mother, of course, also, and was telling us the story. He says, "Oh, sure, I remember that." I mean, he said, "Not only do I remember that, but I was there." And he said, "Not only was I there, I was singing harmony with his other friends to Priscilla, serenading her with my father's song, The End." And, he talks about that in news videos and what have you. Isn't that strange that how years later he finds me and starts managing this project, because he loved the music, and the music I started recording with a lot of Elvis Presley people. And he was there at that moment before I was even born, watching his best friend Elvis sing my father's song to Priscilla. And decades later, I was introduced to the Jordanaires. What actually happened, going back to square one real quick, is that I wrote a new arrangement of my father's song, The End, on the piano, and ended up showing it to a famous arranger, George Andrews, in New York. And he's actually still with the project and has worked with me all along. And he, heard my piano voice recording that I did at the Hit Factory in New York. And he looked at me and said, do you want to know what I think? And I cringed. I thought he was going to say, "Go drive a truck," or "I don't like it." And he laughed, and I cringed again. And he said, "I love it," and started to laugh again. And he said, "Now, who's going to sing with you?" And I said, "I don't know what you mean." And he said, he pointed at me, "You kind of sound like Elvis, and you need to have a big godly vocal group like Elvis had, like the Jordanaires." And he started laughing hysterically again, saying, "I wonder if they're even still alive." And so, long story short, about 3 weeks later, I get a call from somebody that knew the Jordanaires that was contacted somehow through somebody George talked to, who sent them that recording of my piano voice. And they liked the song and liked my version and my singing. And, I was hooked up with a producer at Sony Music in New York, Dixon Van Winkle, who was helping me. And they loved the song and the concept and wanted me to do more. So the Jordanaires agreed to record with me. And they said, send John out to Las Vegas. That's where they were at the time. And we'll, quote, see how it goes. So Dixon Van Winkle said, well, let's do a few more songs. I mean, it's silly to go to Las Vegas to record the Jordanaires on one song. Let's capture the moment. So that's what we did. And he helped me start 3 other songs. One of them, which I believe the record company sent you, called The Way I Feel Tonight, which I wrote with my father before he passed. That's the original Jordanaires. And they recorded the end. And I'll also mention to you, which hopefully they'll allow you to play soon, is one of the famous songs Elvis did in 1961, Can't Help Falling in Love, which was notably one of the most gorgeous and memorable songs that Elvis did with the Jordanaires. So in that first session with the Jordanaires, we actually put their voices with mine on a new track, new arrangement, a rocked up arrangement of Can't Help Falling in Love, with the same exact 4 people that sang with Elvis Presley in 1961 on the same song. It's freaky. And, through the last 10 years, as people started to join this project and Joe Esposito got involved and more Elvis people would come and start recording new music, we would add more people to that song as we were recording other songs. So Joe Esposito was involved in all of this. And just about 6 months ago, we had a guitar player, Billy Sanford, who was introduced to me by David Briggs, the piano player for Elvis. We said, you got to use him. I talked to him. He'll play for you. And Billy Sanford, so you know, folks, he played for Elvis. He was one of the top studio musicians and guitar players in the 70s and 60s. And he actually was the guitar player before Elvis. He was the guitar player for Roy Orbison. And Billy Sanford, notably, actually played that guitar lick on Pretty Woman. That's Billy Sanford. He did all the George Jones hits. He was the guitar player on Charlie Rich's song Behind Closed Doors, many of the big hits for everybody else, and just an amazing player, Kenny Rogers. So he's played on about 20 new songs, including Can't Help Falling in Love. So the plan is they're finishing that Can't Help Falling in Love track with 15 other songs that are scheduled in what they call phase 2 right now of those songs, 15 songs that the arranger's been working on string and horn arrangements with me. And we're about to record the string and horn section, which is led by Walt Johnson, Elvis Presley's lead trumpet player, who played also for Frank Sinatra when Elvis died. So he's putting together the horn section to play on My Way, Can't Help Falling in Love. We have a new recording of Always on My Mind, Welcome to My World. It's just an amazing project. And to answer your question, I met the Jordanaires. Sony Music helped put out this first single, The End. And this just took off like a rocket. I met the TCB band and Ronnie Tutt and other people that played with Elvis. I started getting calls as radio stations started playing this song. They couldn't believe the sound. People thought it was Elvis and the Jordanaires. And that's how I met Ronnie Tutt. And he said, I'd like to meet you, and do you have any more songs? That's how this went. As the last few years went by, more people would get interested that played with Elvis. And the question was always, does John have any more songs? My father died in 1986 and left me truckloads of songs that were hits like The End, Warm, that was Johnny Mathis's first big hit, which we actually have a new recording started with Elvis's people, with the Jordanaires and Sweet Inspirations. We have many songs that my father wrote that were given to Elvis to record. And Elvis died at 42, unfortunately, as you know, and had a life full of ahead of him. As Ginger Alden, his fiance, said, and Joe Esposito, he wasn't planning on dying. He wasn't depressed. This was, God's will, I guess, and he left this world too young. But my father gave, and Paul Evans gave him songs to record, which we're now recording for the first time.
Wow, that is just fantastic, John. I think everything that you're doing is marvelous, and you definitely, I can see a lot going on in your future. I really can. I mean, just to see how much growth you've had from the beginning to now, it's just fantastic. Like you said, all these radio stations are picking it up. Hollywood News Center is working with you. Joe Kelly at CDX Records is working with you. FSA Records. So many places that are working with you and making the end and everything a reality for you. I think it's great.
It's really wonderful, and people like you and to toot his own horn, folks, Kayden Gordon was one of the first big radio stations and radio shows. It's on 60-plus stations who contacted Joe Kelly, and right away, along with a big radio station in Europe, CMR Nashville, the number one country station in Europe. You and a few people like that, literally within a day or two, contacted Joe Kelly and CDX Nashville and, saw the vision, and you're very important in this mix and bringing this out to the world. I mean, radio stations are shocked, fans are shocked, and we haven't released anything, since before Joe Esposito died. Two of the producers died along with Joe Esposito, unfortunately. Joe Gersio, who was Elvis Presley's band leader and an arranger, also got excited. Some of the guys told him about me, heard some of the songs. He was starting to work with me and died in less than a year from cancer. And it's been, it crushed me, and it was depressing. And losing Joe Esposito, we became very close. And, he spent the last years of his life running around and going to recording sessions, promoting this. We have a 90-minute radio special that Joe Esposito put together that Joe Kelly just had finished and got the files when he heard about it from the mastering engineer from the Vault Mastering, who was involved from the beginning at the Hip Factory in New York, and flipped out over it. And Joe Kelly had it mastered, had it, edited together for radio in 12, 13-minute segments. And he said that they're going to start sending this out in the email blast and featuring it on their CDX Nashville website for radio stations to air that as well, which plays an hour and a half of a lot of these songs that Joe Esposito had started with me with the TCB band, the American Sound Studios band. We have DJ Fontana, folks. That was Elvis Presley's very first drummer, who played on about 8 of my new songs. He was the drummer that played on Elvis Presley's Jailhouse Rock. He played on virtually every song Elvis made and recorded, whether it was in a movie or just on the radio, from 1956 to about 1969. And, DJ came into this and played with the American Sound Studios band. We've got original songs. One of the songs that they gave Kayden, folks, a song that I wrote with Paul Evans called Is This Really Love? And this is actually DJ Fontana is the drummer. Wow. I mean, this is how, bizarre this is. And, people are calling Joe Kelly, that are getting these communications from the promoters asking, is this a joke? Is this for real? People can't believe what they're hearing and reading, that these are actually all of Elvis Presley's people, not just one guy that played with Elvis. It's literally everybody that ever worked with Elvis making new music. It's crazy.
It sure is, and I think somebody who sounds a lot like him will bring the fans back into a time that they've been in, when he was around. And it's one of those things, too, that it's, amazing to see, and that they finally found somebody that can recreate everything that he's done.
It's wild, and I give myself very little credit because I tell people in radio stations when they ask me, well, how did you do this, John? I mean, how did you get all these people together? And they ask some of the musicians, Joe Esposito when he was alive, and Ray Walker of the Jordanaires have been on radio shows and interviews with me. Hopefully you can have us back.
Oh, absolutely.
And the answer from all of them, and we're all very spiritual people, was we have absolutely no idea that this was, and Joe Kelly has said that in a recent news video, that this was an order of the higher universe. So if you believe in those higher powers, is what Joe Kelly, the record company president, said, this was an act of God. I attribute this, when people ask me this question, it wasn't my doing. Somehow I was part of the calling. And I have no idea how I met the Jordanaires, as I explained to you. And from the minute they sang on my father's song with me, the end, this was magic. And people that played and wrote with Elvis or knew Elvis, arranged for Elvis, it was just electric from that moment on, and it never stopped. And we have literally all the people that played with Elvis, nearly 100 songs, and it's still going. I'm still writing songs, recording some of the songs my father wrote that my father never had enough time in his lifetime, like Elvis, to finish. So in a nutshell, how I explain this, it's rock and roll heaven that's responsible for this. Elvis called on his best friend Joe Esposito to find me because I was the messenger somehow. And Joe spent his last years promoting this and bringing Elvis new life. And now this is coming back to life, along with the movie that was just released. So it's Elvis Presley, my father, Jimmy Krondes. Now we have other angels on the other side, like Joe Esposito, like George Nicopolis, who was Elvis Presley's personal doctor and personal friend, came out to meet me at a press conference in 2010 in Memphis, and we bonded and became very close. He found out I'm Greek Orthodox, and oh boy, he took his whole Greek family and his nieces and everybody to come meet me when he heard about me, and took me over, the next Sunday to the Greek church in Memphis, which I'm very close to as well. So I believe in this, that this was part of the higher plan, part of destiny, part of fate, however you want to call it. As the psychic John Cohan says, it's all connected. And there's no other way to explain this, because I didn't plan this. I never woke up one day and said, I want to get Elvis's people. I want to sound like Elvis. I didn't do anything. These people just found me, or we found each other, and we can't explain any of it. None of us, including Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly was told about me by some other radio promoter, and I don't even know who it is. And I get a call from Joe Kelly, just like Joe Esposito heard about me recording with the TCB band. And in minutes, I get a call from Joe Esposito on my way back from Nashville. My mother was picking me up from the airport, and he said, I heard about your session with the TCB band. I'd like to buy you a plane ticket to come to Los Angeles. How fast can you come? And can you get the Hit Factory to send those songs out to us? And we're going to set up a studio and bring some other media people. We'd like to hear those songs. That's how this came to be.
Wow.
It was just a miracle.
Just imagine, like, somebody calling you and saying, like, hey, here's a plane ticket to Los Angeles. Like, that would be awesome.
It is just incredible, but it's been a roller coaster ride and an up and down journey. People were always interested in this, not to toot my own horn. I'm just in the middle of this. I have the most unbelievable musicians in the world, and I credit Elvis. Elvis, unfortunately, died too soon.
Yeah.
What he had put together, and his shows on his records, in the end, even starting with the American Sound Studios band that recorded Suspicious Minds. These people are the most unbelievable musicians, and still are. Some of them have now passed since I put them on these recordings in the last few years. But the TCB band, Ronnie Tutt, he was just an amazing drummer, even at 84 years old. I think he was 84. He was so powerful. And when you put those people together, James Burton, Jerry Sheff, Ronnie Tutt, and Ronnie had introduced me to Reggie Young, who was the guitar player for the American Sound Studios band. He played in the session with the TCB band on a lot of my new songs. And then Reggie approached me and said, I like this music. This is pretty cool. Do you have any more songs? That's how I ended up recording with the American Sound Studios band. He talked to his guys. They were all still around. And the next thing I know, I was doing several sessions with the American Sound Studios band. Now, fast forward, several of these people have left this earth and left us with a musical gift. We even have a recording of the song that was in the movie that just came out, the Elvis movie, If I Can Dream. And that was Joe Esposito's idea as well. He said, I want to do this for Elvis as a gift. That was an important song, and he knew, he had the vision. And sure enough, here's that song in the movie, and we have a new recording with the American Sound Studios band, with the Jordanaires, the Stamps, the Imperials, the Sweet Inspirations, Millie Kirkham, who sang on Blue Christmas, and the Elvis horn section, all on one song. Elvis himself never had all of his vocal groups on one song. That was Joe Esposito's idea again. And so Joe Kelly's gearing up to put that song out soon after the end as the next follow-up into this project. It's a miracle.
It sure is. Well, where can people find you on social media, John, if they want to keep up with what you're doing and all the amazing things that you're doing?
Well, just like everything else, to my amazement, somehow everybody's found me, and they're still finding me, and my phone blows up every day. I was advised by some marketing consultants to open an Instagram account just a few months ago. I think it was back in October. And we've gone from 0 to almost 1.3 million followers. Ironically, Elvis has the same amount of followers, about 1.3 million.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
There's some wonderful people that are every day coming on board and hearing about this. And like I was telling Kayden off the show moments ago, that a lot of the marketing people were asking our people to have the audience and the fans be able to hear some of these songs that are being recorded as they're being recorded.
Right.
So that's what we started doing on Instagram, is putting out Instagram reels, which are a really catchy product anyway, and people are loving this. You know, they're hearing a minute, 90 minutes of some of my new songs that are in process, some that are finished, like the song Listen for the Wind, which we mentioned that my dad and Paul Evans wrote for Elvis. Elvis was holding that song to record and died before he could do it. We've got Ronnie Tutt, the American Sound Studios Band, the Jordanaires, Sweet Inspirations, and Elvis's horn section. The song was just mixed by John Nicholson at Hilltop Studio in Nashville, our current producer, and you can hear that song on Instagram. So Instagram is going wild and viral, and you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and EIN Newswire, PR Newswire are putting out a lot of news stories with Hollywood News Center, and that's become a frequent phenomenon. They've done a great job, and a few weeks ahead of the movie, there was this flurry of news stories hitting the news wires, which are by our producers in Hollywood, who were really trending with the younger generation, who said this is what needs to happen. We need to have interactive. This needs to become entertainment, because the young audience, the people that have smartphones, they don't wait for anything. This is now.
Yep.
If they have to wait more than 10 seconds to find John Krondes or Elvis Presley or Eddie Van Halen on social media, forget it. You're done. You're history. They want it now, fast, and yesterday. And that's what we're trying to keep up with, is putting out interesting posts, news stories, news about the project, as they call it on John Krondes on Instagram. It's rock and roll news. And our fans are waiting for that next drop of rock and roll news. And we have great partners with the CIN News Story, Newswire, and Hollywood News Center, who's pushing this out all over the world with links to everything, links to the Instagram, to Twitter, to Facebook. So in 1 minute, somebody can read this story and know what to do and push a button and follow John Krondes and the Elvis Hitmaking Team on Instagram. So it's the idea is to be everywhere at all times, just like the spirit of Elvis is everywhere.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. I think with a lot of us younger generations, a lot of us don't really have the tendency and the, people are just so used and their brains are like, we want this now. And that's why Instagram has made the technology to do like a minute video or 30-second video, because that is the attention span that people has nowadays. So that's just it's just the attention span is the main thing in that scenario, for sure.
Right. You got to get somebody's attention, especially a young kid or somebody in their teens or 20 years old. You've got 1 minute to tell your story and you're done, because all they do then is flip their thumb and flip up to the screen and the explore button, as they call it on Instagram, and go to the next Instagram reel and watch the Bee Gees or the Eagles or whatever's next, or somebody dancing around in their bikini, and that's entertainment. That's today's entertainment.
No, I agree 1,000%. I really, really do. I don't think you could have said it any better, John. I think you really nailed it.
Thank you, and that's how people like Kayden, folks. It's as the psychic said, it's all connected. Kayden Gordon Show is connected to the Elvis Hitmaking Team, and is forever bound and entwined in this project. So now Hollywood News Center and EIN Newswire put a link in this current news story. If you just Google John Krondes Elvis, Krondes, you'll see the story that just came out a couple days ago that has links to the Kayden Gordon Show. And it shows you just push a button. You read about it, push a button, and you're connected to the Kayden Gordon Show.
You
all
can
these
find
great,
my website. You can find everything there. Yep, that's awesome. That's why I link everything on my website. It's just the easiest way to do it.
So he's the guy to watch, ladies and gentlemen, the Kayden Gordon Show. You want to know more about the Elvis Hitmaking Team, you want to hear some of our proprietary songs that nobody else knows about yet, he's the guy. Tune in to the Kayden Gordon Show, whatever station you're listening to, and you'll be all caught up and hear John Krondes and the Elvis Hitmaking Team.
Yes, absolutely.
All about it.
Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. We really appreciate your time on the Kayden Gordon Show, today's Best Country Mix. We really, really do, and I will definitely continue to spread the word about the wonderful Elvis Hitmaking Team.
It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, and God bless you. He's one of the chosen, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a coincidence,
No.
As they all say. You were called by Joe Esposito and Elvis. You're an important person and another messenger like I am in saving the Memphis sound. And we thank you and your audience.